Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great one for you. By the way, Tesla, Square Pay Cash, the mainstream media, the titans are fleeing Bitcoin. It's a very, very real thing. And by the way, so is the Diem coin, the Facebook coin Diem. We're going to talk about that. And by the way, I think we're going to see some huge indicators, gigantic signals that tell us the United States will absolutely be the leader in the crypto space, and not only that, the leader of the fourth industrial revolution. Let's roll this beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at @BackupBradley above, and everything that we're talking about here today. We are 2.3 trillion plus on the cryptocurrency market cap, 50,000 plus for Bitcoin, and it's struggling to stay above. And Ethereum now back over 4,000 after it had dipped, 15.75% up on a 7-day. Bitcoin off by 11.06 on a 7-day. Down here with XRP, courtesy of dereliction of duty and intimidation tactics by the SEC. We're at $1.40 holding strong right now. We're up 6.30 on the 24-hour, although we are still off by more than 14% on the 7-day. Very quick, let's look at the range right here. We will look at a chart to see some support and resistance lines for what we're looking for over the next day or two, and I think it's going to be something you're going to want to know about. Ranging between 123 and 141 right now. 144 is a very important mark, and so are some other spots here. Looking here from Dark Defender, and thank you to you, says we're discussing the same support resistance for a while, and it looks like we will try again for 144. If we break above, then she'll move to the next target. Logic is the same for support. So it's saying everything that we've been looking at, and I'll just click on this chart really quickly here, is still in play. So we need to hit 144 and above to get to 156 and beyond to 166. And then obviously we can start talking about new highs for the year, 272, and then ultimately new all-time highs at $13.33. But until we get there, we need to be very, very aware of these different points of either resistance right here, which we have found so far at the 144, that hopefully turns to support later today or soon enough. Or we could see ourselves roll back to the 133, 126, 113 marks, and some have even called for 90 cent or 70 cent before we actually bounce back and head towards those new highs. So going on with the news, I think we are going to look at some very, very important information here. This is from Wilbur54. We know about the SEC lawsuit against Ripple. And remember, as we look at this information, they are suing Ripple over the over-the-counter sales directly from Ripple, that those sales are in fact unregistered securities. Not that XRP is a security, but that those sales are unregistered securities. Now, Ripple has asked in their prayer for relief in the case to have the judge go further than to just make a judgment on the unregistered sales issue, but to go further and to define exactly what XRP is, and that it is in fact a currency. So, all right, with that being said, I do want to look at this, and shout out to Wilbur54 for this, but this is remarks from Jay Clayton back in the day, and it's been asserted that cryptocurrencies are not securities, and that the offer and sale of cryptocurrencies are beyond the SEC's jurisdiction. Whether that assertion proves correct with respect to any digital asset that is labeled as a cryptocurrency will depend on the characteristics and use of the particular asset. In any event, it is clear that just as the SEC has sharp focus on how US dollars, euro, Japanese yen transactions affect our securities markets, we have the same interest and responsibilities with respect to cryptocurrencies. It goes on to say that this extends for example, securities firms, other market participants, to allow payments to be made in cryptocurrencies, set up structure to invest in whole cryptocurrencies, or extend credit to customers to purchase or hold the cryptocurrency. So I want to go back to the first area here is where it says it's been asserted cryptocurrencies are not securities and that the offer and sale of cryptocurrencies are beyond the SEC's jurisdiction. Now, he goes on to say there, obviously, that whether that proves correct is based on the particular asset and the characteristics thereof that asset. Now, this is where I come back to what I just mentioned about the case. The case with the SEC and Ripple is actually about the sales from Ripple to its customers, that those sales, in fact, were unregistered securities. Well, you know, here's a thing for what we do know. We do know that R3 had an option contract when they were partnered with Ripple. An option contract is a security, and they bought that option contract directly from Ripple. I don't necessarily think that this honestly is a big bad deal. Okay, if they want to fine them because they did option contracts over the counter with the customers that they've made, okay, great. Fine them for that kind of transaction because they did a option contract and not just a flat out buy. Because you know what the benefit of an option contract is that they can't just dump it back on the market. It really shows me that Ripple has been a good steward of the XRP asset from day one to ensure that whoever they partnered or made a customer, that they would not do anything to harm the network, but to actually bring their daily volume of payments to the network to be able to help lift the price because of said daily volume that they can bring to the asset. And a dollar to a donut, I bet you whatever they were able to receive over the counter in that options contract, if that is in fact what they have done in a general sense, I would imagine that the daily volume that they bring to the network is probably compensatory to the amount of XRP that they were able to purchase. So we shall see about those things. But I want to keep moving because there's been a huge change in the narrative. Julia Chatterley, if you haven't seen my first video, go watch it. And I'll play you the 50-second shot here, but go watch the first video. There is a change of tone for Bitcoin. And it's not just like a couple YouTubers out here like I know myself and certainly Digital Asset Investor have been pounding the ground about the idea that Bitcoin has got big hurdles in front of it because of its consumption. And that is going to be a huge problem, knowing we're moving to a much greener world for everyone, which I think is a great idea, by the way. But the reality is that Bitcoin doesn't fit the mold in actually anything that is proof of work doesn't fit the mold because it's got to solve the issue of the carbon footprint they're leaving behind. So Julia Chatterley lays it down on Anthony Pompliano and really says to him, you know, you can say what you want about whatever. You're not answering my question. Let's just hear her say it because she does it perfectly.
I was looking for it. Cambridge University did a big study and I've read it. I guess some of the criticism that will instantly come is 65%, I believe, around of Bitcoin is mined in China. And whether they're using renewable or not, it's tough to verify. Do you accept that that is a challenge here in terms of verification of the data? But also, even if we're just talking about digital assets in general, there are cleaner energy versions, Ether, for example, XRP, not mined. Is that a fact that we can stick to at this moment?
Okay, you know, first of all, I don't think Anthony Pompliano does himself any favors with the smug look on his face every time someone's talking to him. It's not a good idea, especially when you ultimately know what Julia Chatterley knows. He can't answer that and say that Bitcoin is the better option. I have a lot of respect for Bitcoin and the technology of Bitcoin because it showed the world and all of us what is possible with this technology, but it is not a solution. There's no doubt it is not a solution. And as she said, there are cleaner things out here. Ethereum, the gas fees are high. We'll give her a pass on that one. But nevertheless, it's still probably more efficient than Bitcoin is. However, XRP is without question, more efficient than what Bitcoin is. And listen to him not answer the question at all. And shout out to Julia Chatterley for not letting him off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things here, right, is to remember that money is energy. It's stored energy. And so you need some conversion of energy to have money be valuable.
But you didn't answer my question. There is.
Yeah, she did. He did not answer the question. And what in the world is he talking about?
Cleaner digital assets than Bitcoin. We're clear on that. And I think that's important.
There are cleaner digital assets out here than Bitcoin. And I think we're clear on that. Let me tell you, this is what happens when you don't answer her questions. She'll go ahead and put the answer out there for you. And you know what? Listen to him not be able to say a thing back to it.
Important for people to understand whether you love Bitcoin or not, or you like other digital assets or not.
And he's got nothing. He's got nothing, because the truth is you don't have anything. If you own it because you believe that other people will continue to buy it and it will continue to go up in price, and somebody out here will pay more for it than you did. Not because it works faster. Now, does it have intrinsic value? Sure, because I can do with Bitcoin what I can't do with the dollar, right? Right now, I could send you Bitcoin if you're on the other side of the world. Not trying to even say that you can't. But again, I highlight, like I did in this morning's video and the other day, I had someone who sent me a screenshot of 1.3, 1.4 Bitcoin moved. It cost him over $4,000. That is not the internet of value. And that is not how I would want to see someone who is unbanked finally making their way into the digital world and then getting hit with those kind of fees once they do. Because more than likely, anybody who's been unbanked doesn't really have a lot of money. You know what I mean? So that is not a solution. All right, so here we go here. We see even more of the Titans really pulling back on the whole Bitcoin narrative here. Now it's Square Pay Cash App. Look at this here. It says we don't have any plans at this point to make further purchases. There's no plan at this point to reevaluate where we are from a treasury standpoint. It says there's a broad supply chain question around how renewable energy and clean energy become a greater part of the blockchain in general, and a great part of the overall mining and transaction network. It is the overall fixed footprint of the network that we need to address. And he's absolutely right. Square reported 20 million impairment loss on its Bitcoin investment in early May, but the fair value of Bitcoin it holds far exceeds its carrying costs. Jack Dorsey's company bought 50 million in Bitcoin back in October and then announced a 170 million purchase in February. Square's Cash App also made a killing in Bitcoin sales and generated over 3.5 billion in revenue in the first quarter of this year. So in the first quarter of this year, they weren't worried about that carbon footprint, but now they are. Let's change gears a little bit, because I believe we're about to look at what I am starting to believe and lean into here. Maybe the efforts of the Federal Reserve and the testing of this public-private relationship, for which before the time of October 19th, 2020, Jerome Powell was in complete denial of any kind of a public-private relationship in order to develop a digital dollar. But listen to him here. This is when he first admits it back in October of last year. You need to hear this because of where we're getting ready to go, because I'm going to tell you right now, I believe that the Facebook Diem coin, which in its early inception was referred to as a global coin, may in fact be the early testing phases for the Federal Reserve itself.
Thank you. So let me start by saying that we strongly support the work of the Innovation Hub, and would stress that it's very much geared to creating public goods.
And by the way, the BIS Innovation Hub is a collection of central banks, including the Federal Reserve, around the world, working to develop with public-private relationships that the digital dollars of the world, the government dollars of the world, be turned into digital dollars and done safely with all kinds of heightened supervisory provisions and all of these things, right? But he's talking about public goods here. Listen to what I cover about public goods. It doesn't mean government-owned. So listen to this.
We will have lots of conversations with industry and stakeholder engagement.
Really quick, we're creating public goods. That does not mean government owned. Okay, let's get that straight now. It can, but it doesn't have to specifically mean that it's government owned. Okay, let's understand that about the comment public good. Okay, the internet protocols that we're using to communicate with one another right now is a public good. It is not government owned. So let's keep this going here. And by the way, the reason I brought up internet protocols and pointing out that they were public good, what do you suppose the Diem coin's running on? Could it be running on the XRP Ledger? Let's keep listening.
And that'll help us in our work on digital currencies and cross-border payments. We need to work collaboratively with the private sector, and we also understand there's a need to do ways that foster development of public goods. So the private sector is likely to be able to contribute through technological innovation. The public sector brings a perspective that seeks broad public benefits. And with payment systems, there are going to be potentially large network effects that create increasing returns to scale, meaning that we may well see over time emerging a small number of dominant players and ultimately great difficulty in competing with those players. Indeed, that is what we see with a number of the tech giants today in their existing businesses away from payments. We do need to collaborate with the private sector to best achieve our goals, and we're very.
And there it is right there. That's the first time he was seen saying that in a public setting right there. And that was the first time I certainly had Jay Powell actually acknowledge that there needed to be a public-private sector for the Fed at the end of last year. And already where we are now, right, is where are we now? We know that we see the development of Facebook stablecoin Diem association relocating from Switzerland to the United States. Oh, but that's not all, because they relocated here and they said that they're going to use Silvergate Bank in order to hold their reserves for this said digital stablecoin, right? Well, Barry Silbert bought Silvergate Bank, or at least a position with Digital Currency Group in that bank. And it is amazing to me that we're going to now see Silvergate Bank be the reserve kind of exchange network to hook all of the large institutional liquidity providers together in order to service Facebook's digital coin Diem. This is getting big. 2.7 billion users on Facebook platform, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let's take a look at this, because this is Silvergate's Alan Lane on Diem's partnership. And listen to what he says when he tells you he's a member of.
So much to get to, but let's start with this news of the day. The fact that you are partnering with Diem. We've seen the aspirations of Diem pared somewhat and abandoning the approval process in Switzerland, focusing more exclusively on the U.S. market now. Tell us about how this partnership came about, how far you are in the regulatory approval process, and what this ultimately means for business for your company.
Sure, happy to do that. So we've actually been working with Diem for the last several months, initially when they were in fact working on the FINMA license. And we just could not be more excited to be where we are today. We worked together with Diem and with the our various regulatory agencies that we deal with as a California state chartered bank and a member of the Federal Reserve.
And a member of the Federal Reserve. Now, he goes on to say a lot of really great stuff here, but I'm going to just play that for now because it keeps us where we need to be. We know that as a member of the Federal Reserve, he's working with Diem Project, going to be the exchange network, if you will, to connect all of these liquidity providers together to service the 2.7 billion users that use the Diem coin. And at the same time, we know that the United States Federal Reserve is really sitting here at a place, or not the United States Federal Reserve, but the Federal Reserve Bank is actually launching 5 pilot tests, right? 5 pilot tests. And what's interesting about this is a digital dollar central bank issued token from the U.S. currency could help improve financial access to the unbanked, make it easier to disperse government aid. Proponents argue, and then obviously opponents say existing technology may be better suited for the task. Well, how do we know what Diem is actually running on? We do know it's distributed ledger technology, that's for sure. We do know that much, but let me just read you this from the pilot test from the Federal Reserve itself. While the Diem project just moved from Switzerland to the United States, just so happens to be at the same time the Federal Reserve is rolling out these 5 pilot projects. Will evaluate whether and how a digital dollar would benefit individuals are unbanked or underbanked, individuals who do have access to banking services and small businesses. What we're announcing is a funding structure, a process structure, and a framework for how the digital dollar project is going to form a testing ground for these efforts. Treat said, who is the senior manager director of Accenture, which is the company that gave Ripple the green light pass to the financial and banking industry, said that the project would receive support from Accenture, but would also be self-funded. He declined to share any specific details about the project. He did say, however, that they are designed to be as close as we can get to the real-world application. Of course, until it's something that is minted and issued by the Federal Reserve, it won't be a central bank digital currency, but the advantage we have is it's the same underlying structure. We could use a stablecoin structure to directly demonstrate how a CBDC would perform, and then only difference is who the user is. So we could demonstrate this, and I'm speculating, with the Diem project and that stablecoin, and show how it could work. And then you could literally see it adopted and then minted by the Federal Reserve. And it doesn't need to be anything but the Federal Reserve digital dollar at that point. Some of them will be able to get the results fairly quickly, measured in months, not quarters, and some will extend into the year 2022. This, to me, I'm speculating, but seems to be like it could definitely be tied in. I want to show you this. I found this interesting confirmation that Facebook intended back in 2019 to do a stable coin, and at the time was known as Global Coin. And then that made me think of the Financial Stability Board, that is an international oversight body that really makes recommendations, and they did PDF file releases on very in-depth reports on global stablecoin arrangements. I don't know. I don't know if I've been out in the sun too long. All I can tell you is a lot of this is making sense to me, that this could be that test, that some of the pilot tests that are happening and taking place, because we just saw Diem move from Switzerland back to the U.S. We just saw Diem make a partnership with Silvergate Bank, connected to Barry Silbert and DCG Group, which was an early seed investor in, guess what? Ripple. Yeah. We know Ripple's back end. We know Ripple's not front end serving. Doesn't mean that XRP can't be used front end. I'm talking about Ripple and what they offer. It's not consumer facing, right? So looking at all of this and seeing the recent move to connect and get back here to the United States and be in the appeasement of market regulators in the US tells me that not only will the United States be the leader in the crypto space with the digital dollar, but it will be the leader of the fourth industrial revolution. And before we go, I do want to show you this. Let's not forget, Ripple pilots a private ledger for central banks launching their digital dollars. Are you telling me Diem's too good for the XRP ledger now too? I don't know if this is such a far stretch at all, but this is getting very, very interesting. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Head on a swivel. This is crypto and you never know. Check out all the links in the description box and the comment section. They are trusted, vetted links of products and services I use each and every day. I'll catch all of you on the next one.